My marriage and my life were destroyed because of my misunderstanding of my husband. I was so focused on finding the solution to the puzzle. I followed my husband, who was dancing with another woman while holding her by the waist, and my curiosity led me to the room in the same hotel where they had been dancing before they disappeared into one of the rooms, leaving me outside to ponder what course of action to take next. My mind was overrun with numerous different ideas. Should I have a talk with my husband right this minute? Should I wait here till he emerges from the room? Or should I return to the club and spend the night there, simulating the way he was spending the night by betraying me? The preceding 2 months had been a rush of love and joy, filled with the excitement of making a life together with the person I love. Since the wedding, however, we hadn't had the opportunity to spend meaningful time with our friends due to the events that we'd been experiencing. My husband had arranged a much-anticipated guys' weekend, but I had meticulously scheduled a girls' night out with some of my closest friends so that we could catch up and make some memories that will last a lifetime. We came to an agreement that each of us would spend the Saturday engaged in our own unique experience, and that the following day we would get back together for a day of shared relaxation. The plan called for the two of us to go an entire day and night without communicating with one another, because the objective was to see how much we could give each other space and how much we missed each other, and then the next day we'd talk about it. We did not tell each other about our plans, and we did not know where we were both heading. While I was giving my husband a goodbye kiss, a wave of mixed emotions, anticipation and melancholy, came over me. I was overjoyed to enjoy an evening with my girls during which I reminisced about my days as a single woman and discussed the early days of my marriage. My connection to my pals has only gotten deeper over the course of the years, and our get-together felt like a celebration of our friendship that has stood the test of time. I met up with my pals at the restaurant so that we could carry through with our plan to see a movie after having high tea at our favorite restaurant. As we indulged in great food and clinked our glasses in celebration of love, friendship, and the exciting chapters that lay ahead, laughter could be heard echoing through the air. We had originally planned to go to a movie after the high tea, but we changed our minds and went out instead to enjoy the throbbing beats at a popular club. We could feel the bass thumping through our bodies as we made our way around the crowded dance floor. We were well known for the contagious energy that we exuded and the magnetic personalities that we possessed, which caused us to garner attention wherever we went. While we were moving to the beat of the music, I noticed that my husband was in the same club where I was dancing with my friends. It was unsettling for me to see that he was conversing with an unknown girl with eyes fixed on a point in the distance, but I refrained from interfering since I was curious about what would happen next. Her seductive grin and graceful motions drew him in like a moth to a flame. Something about her rang a bell, as if their spirits had been in the same place at the same time previously. The young lady met his gaze and returned it, the sparkle of interest and fascination evident in her eyes. Every passing second seemed to reinforce their bond with one another. They moved in such seamless synchronicity and exquisite rhythm that it appeared as though they had practiced their dance routines together beforehand. They moved in perfect harmony with one another, their bodies swaying in sync with one another as they did so. They became closer to one another through laughter, whispering, and the sharing of secrets in each other's ears as their connection went beyond words. It would have been impossible for anyone who was watching to guess that the two of them were not involved in a romantic relationship. The chemistry between them was palpable, and it gave off a warmth that spread throughout the whole club. The kind and personal manner in which they caressed one another gave the impression that they had a history together that went well beyond a random meeting. They stayed until the music began to slow down, at which point they made the decision that it was time to depart. My husband, ever the gentleman, took hold of that mystery girl and put a soothing hand on her waist to stabilize her. He did this to keep her from falling. They shared an unsaid understanding that was only communicated through their gaze. They proceeded in the direction of the exit, leaving the club behind. I was so naive. I should have talked to my husband right then and there, or I should have waited till the next morning to talk to him. Nevertheless, I should not have performed the action that ultimately led to our breakup. I had gone back inside the club in an effort to get away from what I had just seen, and my eyes raced over the dimly lit room in quest of a connection, a spark, or perhaps simply a gorgeous guy with whom I could spend the night. As I made my way through the crowd, my eyes eventually landed on the bar. I went there without giving it a second thought, and once I got there, I found refuge in the familiar and reassuring presence of a stool. While perched atop it, I surveyed the people in the area, looking for a way to attract the attention of one of them. As the minutes ticked by, I became increasingly pessimistic. After that, however, I observed someone standing behind me out of the corner of my eye. My very first reaction was to back away so that I could honor both my spouse and the vows that we had just taken together. However, as I recalled the betrayal my husband had committed in the past, I was overcome with resentment, and I made the decision to explore this unanticipated encounter. My eyes flashed a hint of defiance as I met the guy's gaze, and in return, I gave him a discreet smile to show my appreciation. He approached me with an air of assured allure as he made his way over to satisfy his curiosity. After taking a seat next to me, he proceeded to make his introductions. After taking 4 shots together, our laughter could be heard throughout the entire bar. I then made the first move and kissed him, and then he kissed me back, and just like that, one thing led to another, and we found ourselves at the point where turning back was impossible. I also did not want to turn back because I was so motivated by my husband's betrayal that, in the blink of an eye, I was in his bedroom near the club. I awoke with the worst headache I've ever had, and I couldn't even open my eyes when I came into contact with sunlight. Somehow, though, I managed to find my clothes, and I stormed out of the unfamiliar location where I had been sleeping. I called a cab to take me home, and as soon as I got in it, I checked my voicemail and inbox, which were both full of messages from my husband asking where I was. When I glanced at the clock, I realized that I was more than 5 hours late for the agreed-upon time that we were scheduled to meet. My husband greeted me with a worried and aggravated attitude as soon as I walked through the front door of our home. His eyes showed the love and perplexity that he felt in that very moment, while the lines of concern that were etched into his face left profound impression. He came running towards me with his arms spread wide, as if he were dying to give her a consoling hug. But despite the fact that I was still struggling to control my thoughts, I reflexively pulled back and pushed him away. His tone was riddled with confusion as he inquired as to what had occurred, looking for an explanation for the unexpected response I had given. I yelled at him and accused him of having another woman the night before because I was so preoccupied with my own struggle. I was sure that he was. My remarks lingered thickly in the atmosphere, and each phrase sliced through the ensuing silence like a razor blade. My husband cut me off in the middle of my rant, his tone conveying a mixture of disbelief and hurt as he spoke. I was unable to continue. He asked me if I had been following him while simultaneously reminding me that we had agreed to spend some time apart in the past. His remarks struck a chord with me, and with it came the realization that I had broken the agreement and the wave of shame that it brought. However, because my anger was fueling my decision, I chose not to accept his explanation and instead assumed that he was spinning a web of lies to disguise his actions. I proceeded forward, exposing what was supposedly a transgression on my part. I lied and said that I had spent the night with someone else, just like I thought my husband had done. I believed he had been cheating on me. I reached out to him in an effort to beg for his forgiveness when the cloud of misunderstanding was lifted. When I saw the truth, I felt gross. He gave me a signal to halt and yelled at me to get the hell out of his house before he kicked me out by himself. A physical reminder of the repercussions of my assumptions and actions was served upon me a few days after our explosive encounter with one another in the form of divorce papers. As the legal proceedings progressed, I was forced to confront the harsh reality that my husband had never broken the trust that I had placed in him. The events of the night in question have come to light, which has led to the disclosure of the chance meeting that occurred between my husband and his distant cousin. My husband had completely unintentionally met the cousin at the club while he was in town for a short stay. The cousin was traveling through town. I started to become aware of the significance of my acts and how they had severed the previous love tie we shared. I was so mired in regret that I was unable to think about anything else, which made my misery worse. Update. After the end of my marriage, I began a life-altering quest of introspection and self-discovery that continues to this day. I went in search of comfort and a better comprehension of who I am, despite the fact that my heart was still in the process of healing and my spirit was desperate for it.